everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Unfiltered Wrestling. As by I'm joined by the Encyclopedia, Tim. Hi, Tim. How you doing, mate?
Hello, Lee. I'm really good, mate. I'm really good. It's been a eventful few weeks in wrestling. Let's start with Raw and the promo with the new faction, whatever they're called, the Heyman's family, I suppose we better call them. That was really good. Heyman came out and explained a few things. I think that was important because we were all left going, well, what the hell? Why is Bronson Reed there? And he did as good a job as trying to explain why he was part of the group, why Seth had managed to get past that. I think that was really important. I think that works for them to get long term. I still think it's a little bit disjointed. I think we're going to take a little while before we get somewhere.
Yeah, and we said that last week that it was going to take Heyman's sort of genius of being able to explain to us to make it all make sense. I'm glad they sort of started with that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, he said Bronson Reed is the only person to have given him a beating like that. I did notice how Seth played master manipulator to the crowd. I think that's definitely worth mentioning. He managed to get him to sing his song as he came through again, then went into heel mode and said, well, why do you all hate me? I've done nothing more than other people have. And he mentioned Roman Reigns, and that he got an OTC chant, which you wouldn't be surprised. But it's examples why Seth Rollins is one of the best right now. That was followed by, so I'm going to throw my first toy out of my pram today. We had 3 triple threats on Monday Night Raw. I know we're doing triple threats for the cash-ins, but to then include the tag team belt for it felt like we're just overusing triple threats at the moment. They're becoming a crutch in which WWE can get round things. So I think we need to do something with that. But the first one up was Penta versus Dragon Lee versus Chad for his spot. And my boy Penta, he made it through.
Yeah, and I still can't connect with Penta. And maybe because I'm looking at it, because I don't like Penta, very dangerous with that Chad Gable spot when he looked like he killed Chad.
That was a really, really dodgy spot. Why you're doing almost like a gory bomb in the background, and then I don't even know what he was trying, and he definitely dropped him on his head because I looked at it and went, ooh, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt a lot. But I still think he's the guy. I'm glad he did well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those spots on paper sounds brilliant, but when trying to execute it, it's maybe that a little bit too far, not just for Penta, for anyone really. So I appreciate what they were trying to do, trying to give us a really entertaining spot. Overall, I think the match was quite a good quality match. There was lots of high flying. As I said, I don't connect with Penta, but I think he played his part in this match. So I'm not too happy he went through, but I think he contributed to an entertaining match. And you know me, I'm a Chad fan for the tacky entertainment. So I'm a bit gutted Chad didn't go through, but I'm happy he didn't die. So
yeah, I mean, what it is worth mentioning is this is continuing his luchador story that we've been going since January. So that's a plus point because, yet again, whenever it's Chad Gable, he gets beaten by Lucha Libres. I mean, he picked a fight with Vikingo, which leads to their Worlds Collide match. I think that's going to be a really interesting match. But I like this. And then when he puts the mask on and his El Americano, he is like undefeatable. So I like that, the difference in his alter egos.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And it makes Money in the Bank interesting because obviously I've got my theory with Solo. Penta's your guy, so it is one of those. It could be anyone's Money in the Bank this Saturday.
I don't think Penta's going to win the match. You include somebody like Penta when you want to bring high spots in. I think he's a guaranteed high spot guy. I don't think you see that when you see the likes of Solo included in it, but you do when you see somebody like Penta.
Then that led us on to
Judgment Day and their wonderful shenaniganry. Liv Morgan is finally back. Yeah, really good. She looks well. I like the interaction between her and Roxanne Perez. Yeah, that looks good. That's got story movement in it. I don't know whether they're going to turn Liv face. I think that would be a mistake. I think she needs to stay as a heel. She's doing great work as a heel. So I think we need to leave that one alone. But Finn Balor, what a smile he had. Again, second bugbear there. As a football fan, seeing these people walking down with their football shirts, excellent, really pleased. Finn Balor, you and me, we're going to have words at some point.
I totally agree with Finn's playing this part really well, and like you said, that smile just told 1,000 stories.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. We next had the squash match of Rusev versus Akira Tozawa. The fact that Tozawa got any level of offense in there was surprising, but it ended what I expected to. It's the Sheamus coming down that's made me intrigued. That has a great match written all over it.
Yeah, it's good they're teasing it, but do you think it's early?
I think we're looking at SummerSlam. I think,
Right.
if we're honest, it's a SummerSlam match.
And yeah, like you said, it was an expected outcome. We did say again when Rusev returned, he needs a couple of squash matches just to build his profile back up. So it was expected, but it was good to see Rusev back. I've always been a big Rusev fan, and like I said when he returned, it's nice to give him attitude Rusev, not tacky, cheesy Rusev.
I agree. I think if I was WWE, I'd book him to beat Sheamus. I think he needs that big victory now. Let's start building towards something. So I would go with that one.
And I think Sheamus is established enough to the loss ain't going to hurt him. He's a crowd favourite.
No, exactly.
He's a veteran. So to lose to Rusev ain't going to be. It's not going to put his stock down any further. So I think.
But I think if you're really clever, you could get 2 or 3 matches out of this without pushing it too hard. We've then followed this up with, as I said, my bugbear, the tag team, the triple threat tag team. The issue with Raw is it's tag teams. There is literally these 3 guys, and that's about it. They need to shake that up as soon as possible. I liked the teamwork between the New Day and American Made. That made sense to try and do it, tell those stories. Some great bumps, some absolutely great bumps all the way through this match, and I was really impressed with it. It's just the ending was a little bit sucky again.
But I think this is playing into how they want to present the New Day as the tacky cheaters heel tag team.
And maybe that's true, but your problem is they've beaten both of these tag teams the same way each time, and I'm like, so what are we going to do next? How do we build this up? And that's the problem I have with this. There's just not enough story in there, I think.
But like you said, these are literally the only 3 teams of Raw. So how many ways can you tell one story? As you said, they need to start bringing other teams up to get that division going again.
This was followed up with, and I put this on my note, Jey Uso, too many fingers in too many pies. We had what obviously went on with John Cena and Cody Rhodes and Logan Paul Saturday night main event. He's now challenging Gunther. So I don't know how we go with this. I think it's just too much at the moment.
Yeah, and then obviously when we go into our SmackDown review, he plays another factor in SmackDown. And like you said, where's it going? And obviously we're going more into SmackDown, but I think the way they're presenting with John Cena, Logan and Cody, he needs to be a champion still. So in a way, the Gunther match next week's redundant because it won't make sense to put the belt back on Gunther at the moment. So yeah. I think it's sort of a dead match really, which is a shame because they've fought each other so many times. Either do it to give a shock value and make Gunther the champ, or just don't bother with it yet. Revisit that down the line.
Yeah, but if by giving Gunther the belt, you're going to properly throw money in the bank all over the place. Because we've had the interactions with Seth as well. So Jey is involved with Gunther, he's involved with Cody, he's involved with Seth. There's a lot of people he's now caught up with that's going to catch up with him at some point. But another solid promo. I can't stress how good a promo he is. And Gunther was right to make the comments. It looked good. I just worry we're getting really muddy with his stories at the moment. Ironically enough, Jey Uso is struggling from John Cenaism, shall we say?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the internet world, everybody says he's an absolutely awful champion. Yet you can go into you can see him walk down to the ring, right? And the whole of the crowd is losing their mind. This guy is over like Rover. So I don't understand all the hate towards him. Is he the world's greatest wrestler? No, he's not. But is he a good champion? Yes, I think he really is. Yeah, we then next had the singles match between Kairi Sane and Liv Morgan, and Kairi Sane won. This was a real strange. I know it's a suspect finish with Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez getting involved, and it all goes a little bit wonky. But I'm surprised by this finish, especially bearing in mind Liv has just come back.
But again, I also think it goes back to Liv doesn't need the win to lower her stock, and then this helps set up the storyline they're trying to set up between the three women. But I did think it was strange that Liv went after Raquel saying, well, you're the veteran, you should have known better. That's a weird angle to hear, and it's interesting to see where that's heading.
As I said to you, I'm worried they're going to turn her face again and keep Roxanne and Raquel as heels. So that's where it looks like it's going. I hope they get that one wrong.
That moved us on to...
we then had, and I put this down, we had Lyra Valkyria's rebuttals of Becky, and I said, this is probably Lyra Valkyria's best promo since coming onto Raw. I think she has absolutely nailed this one. She's given the right emotions at the right times. It has made me want to see this match even more so. Bearing in mind now, if Becky loses this, she can never compete again for the IC title.
Yeah, are they sort of backing themselves into what we spoke about off camera with Cody in AEW? There was nowhere else for him to go once. I know Becky can still go for the big belt, and that's probably why they're trying to take her away from the IC scene. But if she doesn't win, and then doesn't win the big belt, what's left for Becky? So are they painting themselves into a corner? And I know I sort of said on that women's show that I felt like Becky needed to be in the IC picture to elevate that belt because the world champion's already elevated. So they're sort of doing what I sort of said needed to happen, but I don't know if they're about to paint themselves into a corner.
They may be painting themselves into a corner, but I said to you, I said from day one, Becky's going to win the belt next. There's no question about it. My question is, if she wins that match, is there going to be a third and final, the rubber stamp match? And if that's the case, what stipulation should it be? Because it can't be a normal match. They need to go to the next level if they do a third match.
Just have to wait and see where they go with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we finished off with the main event, which was, and I have to stress this, 3 NXT world champions fighting it out for a position, or former world champions fighting it out for a position in Money in the Bank. Right? And we're talking about 3 consummate pros in Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, and Finn Balor. I think this was the best main event I've seen for a while for the men's division in Raw.
I totally agree. And obviously Seth won. Do you feel like he needed to win though?
So this is the problem. I know I said Seth needs to win, or will probably be my pick for the next world champion, but I didn't think he'd win it via a cash-in, because now that he's in the Money in the Bank, he's got to be one of the favourites.
Unless this elevates, because obviously we'll talk about in a minute what happened after the match, but they could do a running spot where Punk takes Seth away from the match to elevate their storyline. And because Punk has said, as long as he's alive, Seth will never become the next world champion. So this could be playing into that moment where Seth might be about to win the briefcase and then Punk interferes and somehow gets Seth away. Sort of a bit like Damien did with Drew. They took themselves away from the match and then that still then could carry on their storyline.
Yes. but I think we've missed an opportunity. If I think it will be Jey versus Seth at SmackDown, at SummerSlam for the title. And that would be where I would do that change. I think if Seth wins, then he's got to cash in on Monday night after the Gunther match. So, and that makes sense. That's a sensible way to go, because then you would have a Punk match. But I think you could have gone so many different ways. I think a Finn win would have done like a great thing. Same with Sammy. I'd like to have seen Sammy hold the belt, or Sammy had the briefcase, even if he was to drop the belt.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't see why they gave Seth that spot, because they could do so much more with Seth that makes sense. So give it to a Sammy, or even a Finn. Finn sort of deserves his place at the moment, because the way his storyline's been going, but he's been great at portraying whatever they want him to portray. So I think Finn would have been the better bet.
I want to mention, on the way to Sammy going into the ring, Karrion Kross is back. So we're back with a Karrion Kross story again. So I was like, oh, now I'm interested. I like Karrion Kross. I like the character he's done. Maybe they'll side on to Sammy going to that as a feud, which I will be really impressed with. And the other one is the coup de grace into a stomp, into a haluva kick, like series of moves. And they were so good. They managed to pull that off without any issues whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. Their timing on that was spot on. Like, to the second, it was amazing to...
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, that's why I think it's the best men's main event we've had for a long time.
Going on to the end, the only sort of bugbear I had was when Heyman and that was walking up the ramp and Punk's music hit. It was obvious Punk was coming from behind. But again, they're on TV, and I don't know how else you sort of do that spot.
Well, he's 1 against 3. He needs to get to one guy. You can't do it any other way other than to push to go, oh, you go that way while I'll come this way. It was the only way. I agree. I'd have liked to have seen something a little bit more creative, but it was the only way you were going to get away with it.
So overall, I know the amount of triple threats was a bear bug for you, but what would you rate Raw this week?
I'd say it was a good show. I said the 2 male triple threats were really good. I was impressed. Some of the promos were worth watching. And some of the surprises have made you think, oh, where are they going to go now? So that would mean it was entertaining. I'd watch it if I was if I had to watch it again.
Yeah, and I think I'm now getting used to the intrigue. You know, I said a couple of weeks ago, it was hard to watch Raw because you couldn't work it out. But now it keeps happening. I think it's actually quite nice to be pleasantly surprised, because I think we've been conditioned as wrestling fans over the last couple of years that we can easily work things out. We know where things are going. And now we're starting to go back to not actually knowing. It is quite an exciting time to be a fan. And then that brings us on to SmackDown. I usually love watching SmackDown. This was a little bit of a less downer for me.
I'm with you, Lee. It just, something didn't feel right. First of all, Bianca coming out to a home field pop, that was clever. It's the right thing to do, especially when you're building up towards the triple threat. Naomi is a stalker. I mean, I know we're going with a little bit of an unhinged character, but she's going a little bit, that was a little bit too far for me at the moment.
I actually quite liked it on an entertainment side. I thought Naomi was brilliant. And I have seen over the weekend people calling her the Queen of Kayfabe because she posted a picture of Natty's birthday and she's blurred Bianca out. So it's even online, away from wrestling, she's still keeping it in with brilliant. So she's keeping that character. And she's been nicknamed the Queen of Kayfabe. So
I love that. And yeah, she obviously won the match. I do want to mention what a mammoth annihilator by Nia Jax on Jade Cargill. She took that. That wasn't like pulled a punch at all. She hit that solidly.
And again, I know I said a couple of weeks ago I never used to like Nia, but she's impressed me when she comes back. She's impressed me more again during this match. And this version of Nia, I think, can do so well. She keeps disciplined and keeps her head in the game. I think we're going to see a really good Nia Jax on this run.
I'm with you. I totally agree. I think she's got so much more to give.
And I think it's a good opponent for Jade because of the way they've built Jade up to be this man mountain. In a way, Nia Jax is sort of the only person that sort of can match her on strength and stuff. So I think keeping these two together is a good, like feuding is a good move.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. Can't disagree with that one.
Do you think Naomi's got a chance at Money in the Bank?
Yes, I think she wins it. I think she
I
wins
agree.
it. As soon as I saw who she was up against, I was like, well, she's definitely going through. And looking at who's on the card for Money in the Bank, I think it's got to be. She's got to win that one.
100%. And then after that,
That led to a really weird interaction between R-Truth and Jace and the Bloodline, or the new Bloodline, or whatever we're calling them. That was weird. That was really, really weird and uncomfortable. And I don't know. I can't see why we've put this in there. I know R-Truth is getting more television time, but it was the wrong one as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think it's trying to piggyback off of the success of John Cena on Saturday night main event. And I think, obviously, they want to try and build the Bloodline as their SmackDown heel faction. So I think the idea was to put R-Truth in with them, whatever we're calling them, to just get that reaction from the crowd. But like you, I think it didn't work. It was a bit uncomfortable.
For me, bearing in mind where R-Truth was like a week ago, he was fighting John Cena and putting on a good show, to then being squashed. And JC Mateo should be squashing people. Let's not even joke about this. The man is a freak of nature when it comes to athletics. But R-Truth shouldn't have been put in that match. It should have been someone else, I think.
Yeah, and that finisher, I can't remember what they called it from JC. That's crazy.
Tour of the Islands.
That's it. Tour of the Island. That move's outstanding. I love that move.
Yeah, it's almost like a reverse spinning power slam, which takes you totally out of any level of comfort zone. Because you know which way you're going to go when you go into a power slam. To go backwards as he's flipping and then jump in and do it, it's unreal.
No, exactly. And then that led on to.
That led us to this again, the tag team scenario, the chat with the Street Profits, Fraction coming out. They were a little bit heelish at that point. I thought that was a little bit weird. Then City Machine Guns come out, DIY come out, and I like. Do you know what? Tommaso Ciampa, brilliant when Johnny Gargano mentions the White Six, and he says, "Don't mention that." I love that. That was a nice little callback. But then the White Six are involved, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's the whole tag division versus the White Six, which is really strange. Unless,
Yeah,
because War Games is miles away. Unless they're setting that up as the SmackDown War Games. I don't know. It's a weird segment and a weird.
yeah, I'd be all right if DIY were the tag team champions, but the Street Profits are good guys, and the White Six are being portrayed as people that only attack those that have done wrong. So I don't know where we're going with that. That one feels really weird again.
And I also feel like SmackDown don't need to do that because they've got a decent tag division that they can have so much branches of the storylines between, and they've got a really good tag division to then, in a way, make them all team up to go against the White Six. I don't get what it does for that division.
No, neither do I. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, unless. I mean, I don't think the White Six need the belts either. That's the problem. They should be there as a special attraction. I don't need to see that like that.
Yeah, and I get it from last week because it was Bray's birthday. I thought that was a lovely tribute and why they did it then. But then to sort of carry it on this week, it didn't make loads of sense to me.
No, not at all. I think we're still waiting to see where that one clicks. Again, this could be another SummerSlam build up towards. I'll hold fire with them because I think they've done such a good job with the tag team division.
Yeah, and then after that,
that led to another tag team match. This is a really strange tag team because you had Garza, and Ray Phoenix and Javon Evans. Now, I'm aware of Javon. I've heard about him, but I've never seen him before. I have to say I was blown away with what this kid can do.
I'll be honest, the same. I hadn't really heard. So it was a decent match, but I didn't feel invested because I didn't know really who it was, in honesty. So
his high spots were fantastic. His drop kick jump, he almost goes down at an angle because he's got that much elevation. He can drop kick someone downwards into the chest, which he looked great. He didn't look out of place. And putting him with someone like Ray Felix, seasoned tag team veteran, but he could also do the luchador stuff really well. So I'm tempted to sit and watch Worlds Collide with him involved in the Four Corners match. That said about the Four Corners, Ethan Page did a great job of promotion. He's ready. He's now ready for the main event. Let's look at getting him up onto the main roster.
Picked up out of nowhere. Like, he's always sort of been at that mid-level. And then all of a sudden, like you said, he's just spun up and he's ready to go. So I agree with you. We need to get him pushed up there.
Yeah, and he's good on with his promos. The fact that he beat Ricky Saints for the belt, which is a surprise to me, says a lot. So I would definitely be looking to get him onto. I'd probably put him on a SmackDown at the moment, and I'd give him some solid time with the likes of Carmelo Hayes and going along that way.
And that led
to Zelina Vega beating Alba Fire again. This whole situation I think we're getting a little bit silly. It looks like Chelsea Green's going to actually beat her for this title again, because otherwise we'd be moving past it. We'd be moving to someone else other than Chelsea Green. I think she's going to become a two-time champion after this. Zelina Vega is a solid United States champion, but Chelsea should be aiming higher than that.
And does this sort of go back to, because of, like I keep saying, we're getting a PLE every 2 weeks, it feels like, that they're having to sort of keep storylines sort of going longer than they would like to, of just so they don't give everyone everything at once.
The problem you've got is if Chelsea moved away from that division, who's going to challenge for the belt?
Exactly, that's what I mean. So they've got to keep it going because they've got so many sort of bigger events coming. They've sort of got to keep revisiting the same sort of stories in a different way because it's every 2 weeks. Maybe they've just outdone themselves with their schedule.
Yeah, I think this is it. I'm hoping by SummerSlam this one is all done and dusted. I enjoy all the competitors involved, but I am ready for them all to move on.
Exactly, yeah, I totally agree. And then next we had
Damian Priest coming out praising Jacob Fatu, but also mentioning the new faction. This is obviously where his next focus is going to be. I imagine he'll probably challenge for the United States Championship again. And we'll go along this feud. I don't think that's a bad feud for Damian Priest. After the Drew McIntyre finish, I think this is where he needs to go. I think this is something else.
And then that led to...
So, Hell apparently froze over, and Andrade won a match on SmackDown.
I was surprised as well.
I looked at those 3 people in that match and thought, well, Andrade's definitely eating the pin there. There's no way he wins that match. I thought Jacob would be protected, but I thought, oh, that means Carmelo Hayes is getting involved. Nope. We're going to put Andrade in a ladder match, which, don't get me wrong, will be awesome, but I'm absolutely surprised by that finish.
Yeah, and maybe, again, styles, lucha styles, aggression styles, it's just to give a nice mix to the ladder match. So we know he's not winning it, so it don't matter too. I don't think it's a missed opportunity as well. Knowing now that Seth's in the match and stuff like that, I think it's just a spot filler, and it's okay. So Andrade, we know he's going to put on a good performance. I'm surprised he won, but I'm not too gutted about him winning.
No, I'm with you. I'm pleased for him. I truly am. Either him or Carmelo Hayes, I would quite happily love to see in a ladder match. Where that goes, who knows? That brought us to the main event. with John Cena, Cody, and their entourage, shall we say. What a pop that Cody can still elicit even after his WrestleMania match.
Yeah, see, I agree, but I didn't think he was great. He had great moments in this promo, and I know it's his first time back in ages. There's one interesting bit from him that when he's mentioned about The Rock, when he's looking back over his year, and he said about the soul thing, and he said, and that offer still stands. That now worries me that they're going to revisit that storyline. And then I think this is going to link back to what we spoke about last week with the Travis Scott being interjected to make it a 3-on-3.
I think what we'll see is by including that, Cody's covered his base in case Dwayne decides he wants to get involved again. He's now got something involved. He's there. And I think that's clever business because we don't know what The Rock's going to do. We don't know how much he's going to throw everything like in the fan and see where it goes. So I don't see that one as a problem. Also, if they do choose to turn Cody heel, which again, we've said before, shouldn't happen for at least another 12 to 18 months, they've got a carrot there. We've left the line. It can be revisited at a later date.
Yeah, and then like you said, so obviously we had Jey, Logan and John. John said some interesting things, calling Jey a lazy champion. Obviously, that's heel. Do you think that's heel work and him playing into obviously what we were talking about earlier with the internet trolls?
On a real life, John Cena has a lot of time for the Usos. I think that he understands and respects them. I'm going to make a real big surprise. So I watched Jey come down to the ring and I watched everybody yeeting along with him quite happily. And I said to my partner who I was watching it with, that this feels very much like John Cena did. This feels like a John Cena moment. He is, and I liked the comment where he said, "You're just a lazy man's or a poor man's John Cena," because I can see that as an analogy, and I think that works in Jey's favour.
So do you think this was more John giving Jey the rub to sort of say,
Yeah.
accept you in this scene, which is quite a nice...
Exactly it. I do. I don't know whether he would have handpicked Logan Paul, but if you're going to try and prove yourself to be a big bad guy, you pick the person they hate the most, which is Logan Paul. You tag that. That's tag team 101, as far as I'm concerned.
And I also think Logan done quite a decent job in this promo for the position he's in of the heel guy. He played into it well. He spoke quite well. I weren't too impressed with the beatdowns. I think it was a bit clunky.
I think people are struggling. I mean, it is worth mentioning the comment of polishing Peacemaker was a little bit on the nose. I was like, "Oh, can we get away with that?" But I chuckled when I heard that. Yeah, the beatdown wasn't as clear as you want it to be. I do worry because I would have Cody pin Logan Paul for that as your finisher. It protects both champions. It gives Cody some positives, and Logan Paul can move back down the card a little bit where he probably needs to be. If John Cena beats Jey, that's not going to look good. That's going to say one belt is higher than the other. And Logan should not be pinning Cody because that's it. Cody dead in the water if you do that. So I think Cody's got to pin Logan Paul.
Well, I think we're getting a DQ non-finish anyway. I think we're getting Jimmy and Travis Scott to set up the 3 for SummerSlam. So I don't think anyone's going to get pinned at Money in the Bank.
Before we get to SummerSlam, we've got we'll have Money in the Bank. We'll have Night of Champions, and we'll have another Saturday night main event. You do not. You'd be crazy to put that as, because of the people involved. You'd be crazy not to have those as a main event, and that's not a good main event. I don't think we'll have a DQ finish because I think we're going to have a lot more shenanigans happen beforehand.
Okay, fair enough. But overall, what did you think of SmackDown as a show?
SmackDown was definitely the worst of the two programs this week. It is definitely the worst one I've seen from SmackDown for a while. Whether that's because there's lots of moving parts and we need to see where it goes, but I'm a little bit, I wasn't impressed that much this week.
You know, I agree with you totally. Well, Tim, it's that time of the week for Tim's top talent. So who have you got down as your top talent of the week?
Ironically enough, I'm actually going to give Tim's top talent of the week is Ethan Page. After watching his promo on Battleground Sunday, seeing his victory on Tuesday, and then his presence on Friday night, he's ready. I think he's definitely the Tim's top talent of the week.
And I think that's a really good choice. Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time this week, and I will see you Tuesday for our question of the week.
Yeah, Lee, I'll see you Tuesday. Have a good evening.